Now let's look at kites. Besides the fun things you fly, kite is actually a special type of quadrilateral. So let's start there. A kite is a quadrilateral, so also it has four sides, but it has specific properties as well. So it doesn't have anything parallel, like a parallelogram or a trapezoid. What it has is two pairs of consecutive sides that are congruent, meaning the sides next to each other. Two pairs of consecutive, remember what consecutive means, next to each other, okay, two pairs of consecutive sides congruent. That defines a kite. Now, if we have a kite, if we have the two pairs of consecutive sides congruent, just consecutive sides, not opposite sides, but if we have that, that gives us other properties for a kite, such as there is one pair of opposite angles that is congruent, just one pair. Notice which pair it is in the picture. It's the pair that connects the non-congruent sides. See the 1 slash and the 2 slash? Between those sides are the congruent angles. One pair of opposite angles is congruent. And again, you may want to make a note that these are the angles connecting the non-congruent sides. Okay? Last thing about a kite, so if we have a kite, then it will be true that a diagonal and another diagonal meet at a right angle, or rather, we say they are perpendicular. So a property of a kite is the diagonals are perpendicular. Okay, so remember what that symbol means. Perpendicular. Okay, or makes 90 degrees. Let's take a look at some examples that have to do with kites. Solve for x and y. Well, first of all, I notice that this isn't just any quadrilateral, this is a kite. I see a pair of consecutive sides are congruent and a second pair of consecutive sides are congruent. So the first thing that I do is I notice the x and y are in the angles. They say degrees. Therefore, I think, what do I know about a kite's angles? Between the two sides that are not congruent, that angle is congruent to its opposite angle. Those two angles are congruent to each other. So I can make an equation that shows that those measures will be equal. And then I can solve that equation. So using our algebra skills, we get x equals 67. Yay! Now the y is also in an angle, but these opposite angles are not congruent. So then I have to think of something else I know about quadrilaterals in general. How about the interior angles? The sum of the interior angles in a quadrilateral, any quadrilateral, is 360 degrees. So I'm going to add up all my angles, and they need to equal 360 degrees. So first of all, remember, if this was 135 degrees and these are congruent, this one's also 135 degrees. So I'm going to write 5y plus the other one that has a y in it, plus the other two, 135 plus 135 equals 360 degrees. Maybe we should write in your note here that it's the sum of the interior angles for a quadrilateral, not just for any polygon. So I have 5y and 5y is 6y. I add those up, and that's 276 equals 360. I subtract 276. 6y equals 84. Dividing y gives me 14. Wasn't that fun? Let's look at another. Find the missing side lengths of the kite, M-A-T-H. Well, what do they show in the picture? They showed diagonals, and because it's a kite, we know that the diagonals are supposed to be perpendicular. So let's put that right angle in there right away. Now, if there's a right angle in there, notice that this is a triangle. What kind of triangle is that? A right triangle. So knowing that it's a right triangle where we know two sides of it, we can find the missing side using Pythagorean theorem. C squared equals A squared plus B squared. The C is the hypotenuse, that's the one we don't know. The A and the B are the legs, so we'll plug those in there. So C squared equals 25 plus 64. C squared equals 91, and therefore, that is 89, and C equals the square root of 89. Now we can take out our calculator or we can simplify it. 89 doesn't break down, so we leave it as square root of 89 unless the directions say to round it. Now remember, when it's a kite, that two consecutive sides are congruent. This side must be congruent to the other side that, well, the easiest way is looks its size. Therefore, this side is also square root of 89. Do you want to try to find the other two missing sides? So down here, we also have a right angle. In fact, all four of these are right angles. So let's take one of these triangles and use the Pythagorean theorem for that missing side. C squared equals 6 squared plus, squared plus 5 squared. So C squared equals 36 plus 25. So C squared equals 61, and C is the square root of 61. So this side, square root of 61. Or I can say MH equals square root of 61. Because two consecutive sides are congruent, this side with this side, MA also must be square root 61. So MH and MA are square root 61, while the other two sides, AT and HT, are square root of 89. Awesome job!